So I was going to talk a little bit about just a summary of my life um, and explain just my life and the weird, uh, crazy coincidences and just the things that occurred as I grew up. I was born where I am right now. My parents had a mobile home down next door to where my mobile home is. It's not the same mobile home, but they did have a mobile home. And they were really big into church, and they did worship. My dad played the keyboard. He's always been an avid keyboard player. And my mom played tambourine, and they would sing and they harmonized together very well. And they did this for a very long time before she ever got pregnant with me. And because they got married in 1980, and then in 1988 I was born. So um, I think their anniversary is on June 1st, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, my papa, I'll explain that later about that, or I can go back into it later. My papa got into a wreck. He's an alcoholic, and so is my mom. But they lived on Pine Street in Spartanburg, and my papa hit this lady head on. He was going the wrong way on the exit ramp or entrance ramp on the highway, and collided with this woman like head on, and he lost their house. Pretty much, long story short, and they ended up moving out here to Woodruff, where we are now. And my parents, shortly after that, I was born when that happened, and then they divorced, like maybe 4 years later, I think. But for the majority of the day, I would spend my time with my mama and papa. Like, whenever I think about memories of my mom, I don't really have any. Like, I actually don't have any at all. Whenever I was really young, like, I have memories of my mama. I don't have any memory of papa. Like, I have, I'm trying to think. Like, no, it's just I have memories of my mama and my dad, and that's all. Like, I don't remember seeing my papa until I was like, I'm trying to think of my first memory. Like, it's not a picture or a photograph. I want to say like Seattle, maybe, when him and Uncle Henry drove the thing across the country. I don't know. Anyway, my mom went on a business trip to Washington State and met Craig, my stepfather, adoptive father. He adopted me. But she was married to my dad at the time and went over to Canada, had an affair, got pregnant, ended up divorcing my dad, and moved to Seattle with me, taking me away from here and them. And I was like really devastated. I was only like 4 or 5 years old. And I remember moving into that apartment in Washington. It was really cold. It was just crappy. I didn't like it. It rained a lot. And I didn't feel close to my mom because me and my mom were, I don't know, she was never like a mom, I don't guess. Like, I really don't have any memories of her other than like one night she took me out of the bedroom from up here. I remember that. I was crying, screaming bloody murder. And she took me and whipped me and then took me out of the house and walked down the steps. And she was like walking from up here down to her trailer. And I remember I was over her back and I puked because I was crying so hard. But that's the only memory I have of my mom. And I guess it was my mom that was carrying me, I'm assuming. But, like, I don't know. We didn't get along. She had Victoria. Craig adopted me in Seattle. His family was amazing. His family's always been amazing to me. Like, they're nice, wonderful people, my grandfather and grandmother. And Craig raised me, you know, and I'm thankful for that in a way because he actually taught me how to speak regular. That I had a phonics issue whenever my mom moved out there and met Craig and stuff. And I would say love, like Yov. And he helped me with that. And then he was just always really disciplined myself and my sister. And even though there was favoritism there from both of them towards my sister, and I felt like the odd one out, he's really the reason that I was able to have the life that I did. And my mom's fortunate for that. And she's, I don't know, I think she showed her appreciation in the most strange way by remaining drunk the entire time that they were together and like trying to hide that from him. But that's not my business. That's their marriage. But it messed up my childhood to the point to where I've never been drunk today. I'm 33 years old and I've never been drunk off of alcohol. So I don't know where my hair tie went. I just noticed as I was talking that my hair thing was undone. So, I don't know. So in the summertime, Mama and Papa would come fly out to Seattle and then fly me and my sister back here for the entire summer. And I remember being like, I don't know, 8 years old maybe, 7 or 8, going through the airport in Michigan with my grandma, and my little sister was like barely walking, and my mama had her on a leash, like a dog leash, attached to her, and it was like the funniest thing in the world because everyone kept making fun of her. But it was like the worst layover, and then we got here and Papa picked us up from the airport. It was like real late at night, and all of our baggage got lost, and it was just like the most terrible trip. But I remember Victoria had on, like, she had no diapers or anything in her stuff because she was still potty training, and it was just like a nightmare. And I remember I was like so devastated because my art case, like, it was lost. Oh my gosh, it was terrible because that's all I wanted was like my markers. Anyways, we would swim because they used to have a pool out here, and we would swim. We'd always have a good time. Like, Mama and Papa did a lot for us. They were involved in their church. We would chase toads at nighttime and hang out with their church buddies and go to the lake and, you know, fish fries or, you know, the country thing. And it was really, really rewarding, you know. And I became a member of First Baptist North Spartanburg when we moved back here. My parents decided to move back here for whatever reason. I don't really understand why. But we moved from Seattle to here in, like, I don't know what year it was. But my sister was like 4 years old, 5 years old, and I was in 4th grade, 5th grade. And that's when I went to Simpsonville Elementary, and we stayed here until 2014, 13. Hold on, what am I talking about? We stayed here until 2004. I was 10 years off. Who's that?
Neighbor.
What are you going to do? Oh, look, give me a hair tie. I don't know, there might be one on my desk. Here, I found it. Never mind, I got one. Okay. So we moved back to South Carolina, and we stayed here until 2004. And I got into a lot of trouble towards the end of us living here. I got mixed in with the wrong crowd, and I got on methamphetamine, and I was like only 14 years old, and it was a pretty scary experience, I'm sure, for my parents. Like, I ran away, and I was gone for like 2 weeks. I didn't know where I was, and I was with like a whole bunch of older people that I didn't need to be with, who are not really in. It's just not a good situation for a child to be in, point blank, period. They had no business being anywhere near me. I mean, I was a child, you know what I mean? Like, anyone with a brain would have sent me home. Anyone with a brain wouldn't have even had me involved with that kind of stuff. And that's what's scary to me, because now, being in the life that I've been in, if I saw a 14-year-old child coming into my presence trying to smoke meth, no. I mean, there ain't no way. I don't even know anyone that has anyone, you know what I mean? It's like, there's no one that I directly know that has any kind of association with children like that. And it's a scary thing to understand that there were like all kinds of people who were accepting of that situation with me and running away, and were okay with that. And that's like troubling, extremely troubling. And I was extremely fortunate that nothing happened to me, that I wasn't molested, I wasn't sold, I wasn't killed, or, I wasn't hurt. And I was really, 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 really naive and stubborn, and just really a child. And I didn't understand the consequences that could have came with that. And I was sent to Blue Ridge Second Nature up in the mountains right after that occurred. And it's like a wilderness program. You have to like carry your backpack and go hiking, and it's like 80-pound bag. It's ridiculous. And you have to hike for like 5 miles up the mountain. Like, we're in the middle of the mountains, no showers, no toilets. We carried our food in our bag, and you had to make it over a campfire, like literally eat with a stick. And it was like, I did this shit, like, you had to have your period out there and nothing to wipe with, really. And it was just disgusting. And I did this for like 4 weeks. It was like 28 days. And I remember when I finally looked in the mirror at the end of that, I had a unibrow, and I had like the biggest pimples, like everywhere, like yellow pimples. It was disgusting. But every single one of my pores had brown in them. It was like, I was just dirt and soot, and I was disgusting. Like, that was, I couldn't have ever gotten clean enough in that shower, and I wasn't even clean probably for like another 12 showers after that, that it was terrible. But I learned a lot of things while in the wilderness program, and it got me away from what I was being exposed to here, you know, in the crowd and the people and just everything. Because, I mean, I can't even understand how my parents could have felt, you know, with something like that occurring. It's like, how do you get your child away from that? And I guess the only thing I can compare it to is the way that I try to keep Andy away from his riffraff and his other culture or whatever. And it's like, I don't know what that said. Sorry, I got a text. Anyway, in wilderness, I ended up running away from there with two other girls, and we ran down 11 miles in our socks at night with no telephone, no sense of direction, no clue where we were. Woke some people up that were in a tent down like a mile from North Carolina, Georgia state line, and they drove us all the way back into town, and we went to Waffle House, and I called Tommy, and I won't go into that, but it was, I called somebody, I'll say that, and the wilderness people, the staff found us like 30 minutes before he arrived. So, I mean, initially, they saved our life by doing so. Like, God's worked his hand in so many ways of me trying to get away and get what I needed to get out of life or whatever it was, or me trying to get what I wanted to get and then being stopped because it wasn't the right path for me. Like, God intervened. And it's like, I see that now, and at the time I was really pissed off and I didn't understand because, I mean, I was troubled. My head wasn't right. And I think I've came a long way. And after I left that wilderness program, I went to, speaking of, I'm going to back up, the most wonderful thing anything has ever done for me in my life is anytime we left in the wilderness program to like walk off and go pee in our latrine or anything, we had to say our name like really loudly every like 20 seconds to let staff know that we were still in the area, you know, that way they wouldn't get upset or worried or come look for us or know we didn't run away. And one night we set up a camp. It was like we'd been hiking all day long, and it was like 11 o'clock midnight, and one of our staff members, we had different jobs every day, and my job for that day was to dig a latrine, which is like the poo hole, and we had to dig it like so far down in the ground and then cover it up, because in that way, you know, it's like for sanitation reasons or whatever. I mean, like, clearly you don't want to just poop on top of the dirt. So I had to go all the way up to the top of this hill on the side of the mountain and dig this latrine in the dark by myself, like all the way away, because you can't have the latrine like right next to your camp because then it'll smell, you know. And I was pretty much crying because I didn't want to do this, because I hate the dark and I hate being in the woods, and I was by myself and I was so upset. And the girl that was there with me, one of the girls, she repeated my name back to me the whole time. Like, they wouldn't let her come up there and help me, but she stood down at the base of camp, like within like eyesight of them, and every time I'd say my name, she would say her name, and that was very comforting. But that was like the best thing anyone's ever done for me in my life, like a support system wise, of like being here for me. And like, that might not mean a lot to anybody else, but like, whenever you're, you know, 14-year-old girl in the middle of nowhere, it's like, that actually means a lot, you know, to know that you're, even though you're alone, you're not alone. And anyway, I got sent to Provo King in school after the wilderness. I guess my parents were trying to buy time to figure out what to do with me exactly, between whenever I actually went to jail first, between jail and then having a plan of action, and they came up with that plan of action. So we boarded an airplane and went to Utah. I was dropped off in Utah at this level 4 lockdown for 13 months. And when I tell you, this was like the worst 13 months of my entire existence. I would not wish that shit on any fucking buddy in this world. And I'm sorry I'm cursing. I shouldn't curse. It did save my life in a way, but in a way, it didn't affect me as bad as it affected a lot of other people, I don't think, because, I mean, I was messed up afterward. Like, after I was released, it was like I was like a robot. I didn't know how to function. It's like I had to get back into society the proper way, and I couldn't make friends appropriately, and I didn't know. It's like the only thing that made me feel normal again after that was like getting back into the same type of lifestyle, if that makes sense. And it was like all or nothing. I had to jump in because I was like empty, and I didn't relate with other people because they didn't go through the same traumas that I went through. And then it's like the people in the school they were all traumatized the same way that I was, really. And it's like everyone had different issues and reasons that they were there. It wasn't just like drugs or running away. Some were there because it like being promiscuous and sex. And then this one girl was on Dr. Phil and had tried to murder her parents while they were sleeping, like with a knife or something. And it's like she got sent there, and it was like, oh my God, like I don't even, like it's scary, creepy, you know. But it's like everyone had a variety of different issues, and we were all like grouped together in something called a caseload, and we had to. And I guess I just read recently like about a correctional facility, like federal prison, and I didn't realize that federal prison, like in a correctional facility, was the same way, and it's like extremely similar in what I went through at Provo, but it's like you have to clean, you have responsibilities every day, you have to fold your clothes a certain way, make your bed a certain way, you have to line things a certain way, you have to walk in a line a certain way, you have to speak in a certain way and in order when you say your name to check off and walk in your straight line, and you know, to go and get food. And it's like all these different things. Like you have to clean your bathroom, there can't be a spot of water in the sink or in the shower, there can't be a hair or a speck of dust, you know. And it's very strict. And when you don't follow the direction, you have like your investment, which is your prison, so to speak, that has like your concrete wall cell that you go in there and sleep and stay in until someone wants to release you from it, if you're like just a hellion, you know, rebelling against everything. Or you get sent to investment to live and to operate and go to school and all that, because you're rejected from the rest of the boarding school, really, for not cooperating or following direction. And like you had your school that you would go to every day, and you would go to classes on one wing or whatever, and it's like the teachers were really cool, but this school was, it was like so weird. It was just like a weird feeling place. And even though it helped, it was like the strongest thing about being there was the fact, like the way that we were treated, and then the fact that we had other people that were going through the same thing with us. Like everyone identified with everyone. It was like there wasn't anyone that like didn't get along, because we were all like in the same BS together, battling together. And it's like it pulled us all together to where it's like there was no fun in that place. We were never allowed outside. We weren't allowed to see our family. We got like one phone call a week, like, and it was monitored. I mean, they would read our mail. They would, I mean, it was terrible. And I mean, I understand there's certain protocols put into place just because of, you know, you're a minor at a school like that, and it's a correctional place. But it's like, I don't agree with the approach that they took with everything, and I would not recommend that for anybody. But it was very troubling. And Paris Hilton, I think, is like has some kind of lawsuit for reform going about that, because she actually attended there. So I didn't ever meet her or anything. She went a couple years before I went there, but I went to that same school. And whenever I was released from that school, because like you would have your pre-orientation, orientation unit, advanced unit, achievement, like your different levels or whatever, where you would have different freedoms or whatever. And it's like if you were at achievement or advanced unit or something, that means that you were more trusted and had more responsibilities than somebody who is just like undergoing their unit status, if that makes sense. And if you got like achievement, you could get like an off-campus visit overnight or something with your family, and they would come like once the whole time you were there. Really, I'm sorry to spit, but it was really, some of the staff were awesome, and they were able to relate with you and stuff. But then it's like other staff, like I remember, were obnoxious and made fun of you and made you feel insignificant, and it's like you couldn't really speak for yourself. And then like the crazy things that the therapists would have you do. Like, they would have you, okay, if you're a liar, they would have you flip a coin, and then if it landed on heads, you could speak. If it didn't, then you couldn't. To say if you were going to lie or not. And it's like, dude, that is like so, there's no forward therapy thought with that, other than the fact you're restricting someone of what they're going to speak on, regardless if it's a lie or not. And then, like, one girl, poor girl, had to carry around this box, okay? No matter where she went, she had to carry around, it was like a 2 foot by 1 foot, or maybe 3 foot by 1 foot box. I'm saying like box. I'm talking about like a mason jar crate thing, like stacked. And she had to carry this thing around with her. And on top of that, she had to have a notepad. And before she spoke, she had to write down everything she was going to say. Like that's cruel. That's absolutely terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And that's not proper therapy for anybody. That's making fun of somebody, that's calling somebody out, making someone more accountable than they need to be for actions that aren't even their fault because that's their parents' fault. You know what I mean? It's the fault of their upbringing and their surrounding. And it's like you're blaming the child for their own problems. And that's not the correct way to go about rehabilitation and correcting a child's bad behavior. And I'm still in contact with like the majority of all the girls that I was at the school with, and they have all actually turned out to be wonderful human beings who are all beautiful and brilliant, luckily, and sober mostly. So we're all survivors, and I love them all. But it's like some of my best friends are from there. But it's like they were from everywhere, from Alaska, from California. A lot of them were from Alaska and California because that's how their insurance or their state funded it. And the state funded sent them to Provo. So, but I was from South Carolina because my parents paid for me to go. Little snotty snot I am. Anyway, after Provo, my dad, in the meantime, he worked at Airborne Express. Can I have a cigarette? Will you grab them from inside, please?
Oh,
I think they're in my purse.
Hello.
Hey,
what's up? What's up?
My dad worked at Airborne Express, and they were having that situation to where they had the whole huge issue going on in Ohio, which is at their base, to where there was this company that was like a brokerage or it was like a middleman for employer, and they were hiring illegal people to come in and load the planes. They didn't even have green cards. They didn't have a social security number. They didn't have anything. Thank you.
Somewhere?
And do you have a lighter?
Alright, let me talk to her. I'll call you back. Alright. He said he don't bring weekend with me.
Who?
Got it.
You want me to, Vigo?